Hi again, it's Ben Hodges from BH Drum Academy. Welcome back to another episode of the BH Drum Pod, where I get to nerd out about drums and give you lots of life lessons that I've learned about the drums from over my years of playing them, and things that I teach my students at my local drum school called BH Drum Academy. It's a blessing that I'm able to use this platform that I can share this with. So this podcast is just another way that I can share all this information. You can find me on YouTube. You can find me on Instagram. You can also find me right here on the podcast, wherever you get your podcast from. And also, of course, my website, bhdrumacademy.com. Today's episode is going to be talking about drum maintenance, or AKA how to protect your investment of drums. As if you've bought a drum kit, you probably already know drums are not exactly cheap. And if you're planning on using them to play live or to record with, or you're going to be playing them a lot, you want to protect them as much as you possibly can. And from time to time, just like lots of things in the world, wear and tear is a concern. For things, especially just like a guitar, you might break a string, so you have to replace the strings. Sometimes, just like your house, you got to keep it clean, or else things get dirty or things get out of control. And same kind of things happen with drums. Taking care of your drums is going to allow them to last longer. It's going to keep it looking its best, of course, but also it's going to make the sound and the feel of the drums and even the look. It's going to keep those things maintained. Like sound, feel, and look are all things that make drums really enjoyable. They got to sound good, and you're going to connect with the drums that way. They got to feel good. They got to look good, and you're going to feel connected in that way. You might, every time you walk by your drums, like, hey, wow, I really kind of want to play them because they look so cool to play. Just like we go to any concert, if you're like me and stare at the drummers, not in a creepy way, but when I look at the drummers playing, I'm always nerding out a little bit in my head about the drums. Like, ooh, I like the look of that. So sometimes the shine and the glimmer and all that stuff about drums is what can draw people to drums. So taking care of your drums is kind of a big deal. So today I'm going to talk about some common maintenance that you can do on your drums to keep them sounding, feeling, and looking their absolute best, and some things to look out for when taking care of the drums. So first of all, let's start about cleaning the drums and making them look their absolute best. Just like anything, they can get covered with dust. So, you can take a common duster and clean the dust wherever it might appear. So for example, on the drum shells, which is the actual drums itself, like the toms and the bass drum, it'll sometimes collect some dust. So you can get the specialized drum shell polish if you want to make them super shiny. But some people just often take like a duster and clean the dust right off of them, and just use just wipe it off. That's also fine. Cymbals, the same idea. Cymbals can collect a lot of dust. In fact, actually, funny thing about cymbals, some people love dirty cymbals. Some people love it, and they claim that the dirt that gets into like the ridges and the fine parts of the cymbal actually is part of its sound. And for some people, that's a very true thing. It's personal preference. But some people love shiny cymbals. And so, like myself, I like shiny cymbals. It's part of the live look, I guess, because when I play live, I want them to be shiny because they reflect off the house lights and all that funny stuff. So I kind of like the look of shiny cymbals. So to get your cymbals nice and shiny and clean them, there's a few things you can do. You could go and purchase some cymbal cleaner or cymbal polish. The cymbal cleaner can come in like an acid form. It's like not like acid like it'll melt your skin, but it'll be like a citric acid of some kind. And you can use that. And you can also buy cymbal polish. One thing that people do though, and I was guilty of this as well, is they think about using window cleaner, like you would like a Windex as a brand name, but like a window cleaner, like you would clean windows and mirrors with. Please don't use this. Do not use window cleaner, as it could oxidize the metal and make it change color. Oxidizing is it happens and changes the colors of cymbals. I know also green or blue, and you don't want green or blue cymbals. You don't want anything like that. So don't use window cleaner for cymbals, especially. It's a special type of metal, and it doesn't work on all surfaces. A cheap way of cleaning cymbals as well is just using good old fashioned soap and water. So not so much soap, but you want to use some soap and water. You can wash those things pretty well. Just don't let the water like dry on the cymbals. You want to make sure you dry them off, and you can make sure you wash off any soap residue off the cymbals so it doesn't like stay on there and also oxidize. So that's a kind of a nice cheap way of doing it. But to get the best shine, I suggest to purchase some good cymbal cleaner and some polish that you can purchase as well. For the pedals itself, to clean the pedals, just a lot. I mean, that's where your feet are. So if you're wearing shoes, all the little fine dust and dirt from your shoes is going to go onto your pedals. So pedals get quite dirty and dusty. So I would often use like a compressed air can or a vacuum just to kind of vacuum up the big dirt and hair, and just regular dusting and cleaning on some of those areas. All the gears and the chains that are in those pedals can often get full of dust and dirt. So we want to make sure that we keep those clear as much as we can. So just once in a while, you'll just have a quick look. And as you're packing your drums, like for me, I move and pack my drums for gigs quite a lot. And I usually do a regular quick cleaning every time I set them up. So kind of easy to do. Now that's cleaning. The next part is checking for your wear and tear and just checking your condition of your drums. Let's start with the cymbals. Cymbals are, if you ever watch a kind of a cool YouTube watch, is seeing super slow-mo a cymbal being hit. It's amazing how like it warps and it bends and it moves and it shakes as it gets hit in super slow-mo. I didn't realize the amount of movement that a cymbal does when it gets hit. It looks like it gets absolutely like punched. This thing, it just warps so much in super slow-mo, and you don't realize that, but it's with all those warping and the hits that can happen. It's metal, right? And metal can crack or chip. I found that the cheaper cymbals are, the more odds that they will probably crack. Like cymbals that are made, for example, like the bronze cymbals or the entry-level cymbals for lots of the cymbal companies, they're made to be cheap. And not necessarily great sounding, but they're made to be cheap for those who can afford it. I noticed those ones kind of crack and chip and warp pretty easy in comparison to some of the more expensive cymbals. The lighter or the thinner a cymbal is, also it's going to warp and bend a little bit more and can crack. But the heavier cymbals, if you're especially a hard hitting drummer like myself, you usually will go for a thicker, heavier cymbal, and it will last quite a lot longer. So the cymbals on my drums kit, for example, have lasted me for quite a number of years. And once in a while, I might notice, and looking around at the drums, I might notice on the cymbals, I might notice a small crack or a chip, or like the cymbal is kind of warped in a weird way. And whether it's on the rim or right on the inside where, like near the bell of it, where it actually attaches to the stand, I noticed that. So if you ever notice a crack or a warp or a chip, it's due for replacement. I wouldn't recommend playing a broken cymbal. I mean, if it sounds great, go for it. I mean, sometimes I've done that, and sometimes other people have done that, where they notice a crack on their cymbal, but they're like, I don't want to spend $200 on a new cymbal. I'm just going to keep playing this until it gets really, really bad. But I mean, it can sound like crap, and it can also sound pretty good, but it depends on what you want. But if you also hit your stick on that perfect crack, it can break your stick too. So just be aware of that. As for the cymbal stands itself, you might notice that the cymbals don't just sit by themselves. They sit on little felts, like little pads, and they sit on these plastic sleeves. A common problem that I see many people do is they just place the cymbal right on the stand without any felts or any plastic sleeves, and that really can damage the cymbal really, really fast. So you need to make sure you have cymbal sleeves and the little felts to protect the bell of the cymbal from cracking. Metal on metal is not usually a good thing. Okay, so make sure there is some sleeves and stuff. And the sleeves are just like, they look like a plastic little base with a plastic tube that sticks up, but that just goes over the bolt of the cymbal stand itself. But those sleeves can wear out because they're made of plastic. And so metal on plastic, chances are the plaque is going to wear out a little bit too. So if they wear out, you just replace the sleeve. They're super cheap. You can get them anywhere on Amazon or a local music store. And the felts are like little pillows, right? They're going to wear out as well. They'll get a little flatter. They'll get a little stretched out. And the felts provide padding from the wing nut being on the cymbal stand to the cymbal. So it kind of gives another metal to metal protection from the actual, like the wing nut that goes on to hold the cymbal on. It also can provide some dampening. So the tighter that the wing nut is, the less wobble that your cymbal will do. So once again, if your felts and sleeves are worn out, just replace them as necessary. Next, checking for wear and tear is the drum heads. And I have a whole lesson on drum heads and tuning and things like that. And like different types of drum heads. And actually, one of the future podcasts, I'll talk about drum heads specifically, but also on a YouTube channel, I have, video lessons about talking about the different types and the basics of drum heads. But in those lessons, why I brought it up is in those lessons, I kind of talked about drum heads. If they have divots in them, it'll be harder for it to hold the tune. And if the drum heads are super worn out and overstretched, and you've noticed the drum heads are quite old, and you have to keep tightening them and tightening and tightening and tightening because they keep stretching and stretching and stretching. It gets harder and harder for the drums to hold a tune. No matter how hard you try, some drum heads will just not hold the tune if they're got some divots or they're really, really worn out. So they can show some signs of physical wear. Like you can look at that. Like if the drum head was supposed to be the color white and now it's the color brown, chances are it's been played quite a lot. If it's if it's a clear drum head and now you can't see it through it so well, now it's probably been played quite a lot. If the center of the drum skin sounds loose or worn compared to the rest of the drum head, that's also a sign that that it's time for a repair or replacement. So really the drum heads, there's not really a magical way. I did see once upon a time on YouTube, and I think it was Instagram or TikTok, someone who took a heat gun. And they just held it over the drum head, and it like removed the divots of the drum head, which is what's like, wow, that's a miracle. That's a way you can keep those things working great. But it really damages the drum head when you do that. It's not meant for that. So drum heads are meant to be replaced as they kind of get used, and they are a little bit costly. So some people don't really refuse to change their drum heads, and they go with the mentality of, hey, the drums sound good, so I'm going to keep going with that. And honestly, that's fine. If the drums sound good, why fix what's not broken? But some people are very on top of, if you got divots in the drum heads, they will replace them. And that's kind of the mentality I've done as well. I notice my drums sound the best when I have fresh and new heads on there. So that helps. For the resonant heads, though, the resonant heads are the heads on the bottom of the drums that don't get played. Their job is to resonate, hence the word resonant. They can be replaced maybe once a year if the drums are played a lot, or sometimes once every 2 years if they're not played as often. But they vibrate and they stretch. They don't get hit. They won't never have divots, but they do stretch. So sometimes you can replace the resonant heads, and it really helps with the tuning as well. So they can stretch. So it's just something checking for wear and tear. And the last thing for wear and tear is the drumsticks themselves. If you're a hard hitter, you'll know you break sticks, and drumsticks will chip away. Pieces of wood will fly away from your drumsticks, and they start to get smaller and smaller. You buy the drumsticks with, they're nice and pretty, and then they start getting these chips in them because you're hitting cymbals and things like that. And the head of the drumstick gets chipped. The shaft of the drumstick gets chipped. And as the stick wears away, the weight of the drumstick actually gets shifted as well, and it doesn't feel it won't be the same as when they are purchased, when they're actually designed that way. So if the stick ever breaks, they need a replacement. You don't just glue them back together. I've seen some people even take tape and they tape them back together. I mean, if you don't have any drumsticks and you're desperate measures, I mean, you might have to do that if push comes to shove. But I wouldn't recommend playing drums with broken drumsticks because they can be pretty sharp. Like, would you play your drums with knives? I wouldn't think you would. I hope you don't, but that'd be a pretty cool act to see. But I wouldn't think you play your drums with knives. So why would you play drums with a really sharp stick? It doesn't really help that way. So now if the head of the stick is chipped or the stick is lots of wood missing away, I mean, they just wear out and the stick weight won't feel as good and you won't be able to play as proper as you possibly can. So if drumsticks are worn out, they just got to be replaced. It happens. It's totally a natural recurring cost of playing the drums. So drumsticks are something you check for wear and tear as well. So other than the cleaning and checking for the wear and tear, otherwise just making sure in order for them to sound good and taking care of them is learning proper tuning as well. You've got to be able to have, that's a really important skill, is learning to tune your drums. If you don't know how to tune your drums, learn them, learn it. Please learn it. It's a great, and it's probably, I would say, an essential skill that is important for all drummers to learn, is how to make your drums sound good. Okay, it doesn't matter if you have a budget drum kit or you have a very expensive drum kit. You need to learn how to tune your drums, and you can learn. There's lots of ways to tune the drums. I have some great videos on my website, and I had an earlier podcast where I talked about tuning the drums. But I have some videos of how to tune your drums. You got to learn how to tune your bass drum. You got to learn how to tune your snare drum and your toms. That's a huge part of how to make your drums sound and feel good. Feel comes from the sound. Feel comes from the sound. So if when you have your drums sounding close to some of your favorite songs, they're going to be a lot more enjoyable to play. So really take the time to learn tuning. And there's some great products out there. If you feel like you're not great enough, there's some great products you can buy, like a TuneBot or a drum dial, and even like some phone apps that you can learn how to tune your drums with. And I mean, if you really hate tuning drums, there's electric kits. Electric kits, you never have to tune drums on electric kits. They always sound the same. But if you want to have an acoustic kit, you have to learn how to tune your drums. I really, really strongly recommend you need to do that. And if you need some help with it and you're trying and trying, you still can't get it right, you can reach out to me. I'm happy to guide you through some examples and show you some things. And I'm happy to, do an online lesson, or if you're in the Winnipeg area, you can bring your drum by and I can help you I can help you tune it. And also if you have a local music store nearby, you can bring it by, give it to another drummer, ask for a second opinion, talk to other drummers. Lots of people have different ways. Sometimes certain drums just need certain things done to them to make them sound as best as they possibly can. So there's lots of ideas and ways that you can do things, but tuning is the only way you can make them sound and feel as good as they can. So thank you very much for spending the time with me. If you're looking for any drum lessons or some instructional videos or any resources on how to play drums for beginners or intermediates and even advanced drummers, feel free to reach out to me, bhdrumacademy@outlook.com. You can find me on Instagram, bhdrumacademy. You can come to my website, bhdrumacademy.com. And I really appreciate, please share this podcast with somebody, like and subscribe, give me a rating. All your help really, really benefits local businesses and local music and keeps me going. So I really appreciate all of your help. But until next time, friends, thank you very much for joining me. But let's get back to practicing. We'll talk to you soon. Peace.